before we move on to our last couple of questions, I sent you a presentation. You can open that up. It's
Yes.
for a little thing we call the clutch. Now, normally, this is a trivia game show of sorts, but now, for you specifically, because your passion for map making, we're going to do it and have it lead more of a discussion on mapping, generally speaking.
Yep.
So the way this works is we have all the maps listed there, and we could copy and put them in multiple categories if you would like. But we're just going to go through each map one at a time. All of these maps have been at one point in the competitive pool. Ancient, Anubis, Dust 2, Inferno, Nuke, Mirage, Overpass, Vertigo, Train, Cache, and Cobble. Um,
Yeah.
and I'll let you lead the discussion on these, and I'll give my 2 cents every now and again. Or actually, I'll lead it, and then you could dump in. So first, we're starting up with Anubis. So actually, to go through the categories, we have Simply Mid. So this is like it's the map's there. There's really nothing
Yep.
special about it. We have innovative, add an innovative ceiling. So the current setup for the map has no more opportunity to innovate or has not been shown to innovate anything new. I think Vertigo, for instance, would kind of fall into that. Best ideas. So Anubis, for instance, has like this connector that goes between A and B without ever going through mid. Which one has the most potential? It could be the future of CS. Which one has major flaws, so needs changes, but not quite at the innovative ceiling yet. The worst bomb site, the best looking, and the best bomb site. So there's four good categories, four bad ones, and yeah, we'll start with Anubis.
All right. First off, I just want to say I can tell you've watched my videos based on the descriptions because you like kind of pulled some of those thoughts that I already had about this, and I do notice that. I appreciate that. Um, First of all, Anubis is definitely the one with the best ideas. It feels like such a refresher for me. I love Anubis. It's just like it's I love it. Yeah, Anubis is just great. I think, like you said, with the connector with water is I think that's very innovative. I think but along with being slightly innovative, it doesn't necessarily need to change so much that it's something completely different and completely new to the point where it feels almost alien in the way that like um for instance like a multi-layered map like there's a workshop map called Akiba for
Mhm.
CS2 right now that I have been playing with some friends recently that I like it a lot, but it's also very different. Um, that one kind of I feel like it goes a little bit too far in terms of being crazy, but Anubis has that little bit of innovation, but also it has some very solid things. Like I mentioned, how I like it when a map has very peakable angles, very
Mhm.
like good points of contact, and I think Anubis has some of the best points of contact in the game. Specifically, the B site entrance to Anubis feels very intuitive to peek, and there are also some very intuitive smoke grenades to throw for that uh, B site entrance to or for that T entrance to B.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's great. It's got some great ideas. It's a beautiful mix of innovation and um, sort of what we know. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality as well. I really like Anubis. Yeah,
I'm also gonna throw it into the future of CS or like a lot of potential. Um,
yeah. Pop that guy in there as well for
yeah,
sure.
it just seems that like it's such it's a deviation from the 3 lane or 4 square maps that we're used to, but it still feels like you don't need to be super tactically inclined to make the most out of Anubis. Um, at the end of the day, like if you get mid control, it's pretty easy as a T to go wherever you want. So I feel like for a beginner map in a way, it's like the first step you take after the Mirage. Or after the Ancient, for instance, I feel like Anubis is gonna be there, and it has a lot of room for innovations. And because this is still like the first iteration really of Anubis, there's plenty of space for updates and changes to be made that could really alter the gameplay and give it an entirely new feel to it. So for me, that's
Yes,
that's most potential for sure. Um,
certainly. Yeah.
yeah. Anything else that Anubis has going for it?
Um, I think I think we're about good for it.
Okay. Okay.
I think that's perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I
moving
don't think
on.
it is necessarily the best looking or has necessarily the best bomb site. So yeah, I'm good. I'm good
Gotcha.
with
Gotcha.
Anubis.
All right. Let's go to Ancient then.
Ancient. All right. Um, Ancient. I want to throw it in simply mid. Personally, I
Mm-hmm.
like Ancient. I think it's does some good things, but I also think that um it makes sense to be in this category because it kind of feels like it's of the same vein of like a Dust 2 in the way that it's just like it's very you just said something very interesting, which is that it's very beginner friendly, which I agree with. I have just introduced one of my friends to Counter-Strike, and he loves Ancient. So, very beginner friendly, very simple. Um, Mid doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, I think Ancient's all right. I think we're at a good place with it. It's all right,
Yeah.
Sometimes you need something to be all right. It can't not everything can be great. There
Yeah,
we go.
I feel like when I think of Ancient, or I don't know if you watched Talking Counter with Yanko, Moses, and Sponge,
I have.
but they did an episode recently with Steel, and he obviously was a big player back in the day, part of the Power thing, and recently just retired from competitive Valorant. So on the recent podcast, they talked about kind of the differences of the game between Valorant and CS, and he, Ancient just kind of feels, or the way he described Valorant maps is the sites feel very simple. There isn't anything particularly complex around how you play around the site. And Ancient, I feel, kind of falls in that category. Like it feels like a very simple, not a very complex site. Both sites really. In a lot of ways, in order to play the site, you're playing off of it because it doesn't provide enough cover for you to really be able to hold any strong positions outside of on A. We have Temple, and then the box that's on site, and then other than that, you're defending from CT, from Donut, maybe around like that Brokey position. That's what we call it, my team. The
Yeah.
Xbox in the middle of the site. But aside from
Mhm.
that, there's really not much that is offered on the defense.
Yeah. I do think in terms of the terror standpoint, I think that the Ancient uh shit, I get the sites mixed up on Ancient all the time. I don't know what it is. It just feels wrong which site is which on
A is
that
the one
map. I
with
don't know.
Donut, and then B
For
is the one
me,
with
it's always
Jaguar.
felt the same way. Yeah, I think I got that down. For me, I've had that since the map came out. I've just been like,
Mhm.
God, which one is it? It feels wrong. I don't know why. But B, for me, from a terror standpoint, I actually really like Ancient B. I think that it's very intuitive to execute on. Like I've got a couple nice mollies, nice smoke lineups that I've just like got solidly done. And I also think that um, the mid position isn't perfect, but I think exploiting mid is extremely fun from a T perspective, especially if you can, get that top mid smoke off and then just get the top mid smoke off and push it from multiple angles. You can kind of corner an opera there. But I like Ancient, but it doesn't blow me away. You said it good.
Understood.
It's very simple. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So going on to the next map, we're going to talk about Dust 2, an old one. Where
Dust
does this
2.
one fall for you?
Let's throw Dust 2. Honestly, we need to throw Dust 2 also in Simply Mid, just to be realistic. It doesn't deserve to be in any place other than Simply Mid. It's that is exactly what it is. It's very mid. It has existed for so long. It is extremely played out, and because it's so played out, what you see is exactly what you get. I just recently played Dust 2 with some friends, and we kind of just we played it just in a non-competitive. It's the game mode is competitive, but it's funny it's called competitive when nobody really cares about that game mode anymore.
Yeah.
But we queued a couple of those just for fun, and it's still a fun map. It's still a good map. It was a breath of fresh air after not playing it for a while.
Mhm.
Um, but even in CS2, it just has not changed that much. It's very normal.
Yeah, it feels like it's. I mean, I've been playing like retakes and stuff on it, and like warm upping, and people just still play it the exact same way that's been played
Yeah,
like ever since Dust New, if you want to call it that, like since the newer version for the Go, or
yeah,
when it was really re-released for Go. It's just really played out, and I think that if you really want, like the thing is, it's hard to figure out what to change because there's nothing wrong with the map.
exactly.
So to change something to make it interesting, yes, that could like add a new layer, but it could very well just be a step in the wrong direction. Um, and that's what's super challenging because there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. What do you change?
Yeah, exactly. They tried shaking it up a little bit a couple of years ago with the switching the direction of the doors, opening up the
Mhm.
skybox near B. And that definitely changed a little bit. I think the skybox change especially made the map a lot. I really liked it a lot more with the new skybox. But even that, like, it's at that point you're kind of even reverting a change because you changed the door to be like how it was in 1.6.
Hmm.
but it's very funny how you would go about changing Dust 2 because truth is there isn't anything you can change without it becoming like a completely different map. And at this point, Dust 2 is Dust 2 and people like Dust 2. So, you know.
I'm also with that kind of discussion. I'm also going to throw Dust 2 at in an innovative ceiling. It,
Definitely.
it it
Yeah,
feels
that's
like there's really nowhere else to go with Dust 2, unfortunately.
yeah.
All right. So next is honestly one of my favorite maps, and in when we talk about like the pro scene, Inferno is a map that, uh, at least back in the day, it was no one specialized on Inferno, but it was always map number 3. It was always map
Yeah.
number 5. Like it was that kind of map. Everyone knew how to play it, but no one
Hmm.
specialized at it. So what are your thoughts on Inferno here?
I love Inferno. It's weirdly become like a almost controversial take at this point because I don't know. I've seen so many people on Twitter talking about how Inferno is reaching the same level of like a Dust 2 of being super stale because it's been played so much,
Hmm.
and I just don't see that personally. I don't think that's true. I think the new Inferno breathed a lot of life into it. I think the very minute changes on the new Inferno have have had and will end up having still major implications on the way that the map's played. I still really like Inferno. I think that I would throw it into. Honestly, it's probably my favorite looking map in CS2, so I would put it in best looking personally. I
Gotcha,
really
gotcha.
think that they absolutely cooked on the detailing. It's crazy how good it looks, and all of the even the like oh my god the throwback to the CS source sounds coming from the
Oh, from
one
the
spot within
church.
church.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool. Yeah,
Gotcha, gotcha.
I like Inferno.
Anything else? I mean, there's not too much to talk about in regards to Inferno, just because it it's if you go like really really big picture. I think was it Haka that just put out a video like this, where he went over like banana takes over the last 20 years. Now it's changed. I can't remember if it was Haka or who it was, but point is like the map, although the objectives of what areas of the map you want to get are have stayed the same for the most part, but the way you kind of get to that has changed a lot, and the options that you can take. For example, again, banana control is really easy to talk about. Are we throwing mollies? Are we throwing nades? We're throwing counter smokes. We're throwing deep smokes, counter flashes, smokes from spawn, and that all these things that come in throughout the years to change how the map is played, or change how to play the map, but not how the map is played. If that makes any sense per se.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like there's still a lot of room to find new ways to play it. We're definitely not at an innovative ceiling with it at all.
For sure, no.
I
I
think it's just in a great spot.
definitely. I think it's very like pretty universally accepted to be a just like great map, and I think everyone kind of wants it to just kind of stick how it is right now for at least a little while longer because there is still stuff to be done on it, honestly. You see like, oh my god, have you this is a bit of an aside, but have you seen the insane stats that Donk has had
Oh
on
my
Inferno
gosh, dude.
specifically? He is like the a magician on Inferno. It's crazy.
for
But
for no reason.
yeah,
Just absolutely insane, this kid.
yeah, I don't get it. But yeah. I love Inferno. I think it's good.
Yeah, by the way, Donk, I think it was like a 1.46, 1.47 or something ridiculous on 2.0, like on rating
Yeah,
2.0. Oh my
his
god.
tournament rating, it's crazy.
Oh.
What even is happening? Yeah, he had across this tournament, across the play-in, he had a 1.64 rating, and across the actual event itself so far, he's also the top-rated player with a 1.62 rating.
Oh my
So just like
gosh, dude.
combined Katowice, dude, he's insane. It's
Shiro
crazy.
made the right move, man. That's all you could say.
Absolutely, yeah, honestly.
With a rifle like this. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Inferno, not too much to talk about, but let's go on to Nuke. This is personally one of my favorite maps. In regards to the experimental maps, like the non 3 lane slash 4 square
Yeah.
maps, I think Nuke
Mhm.
is probably, in my opinion, like the best. And actually probably the best map in Counter Strike for my money. So what are
Yeah,
your
I
thoughts on
mean,
Nuke?
I agree with you. I think it's definitely the best map in CS. I think without a doubt, I think we can even throw it in best ideas, even though it's not new, just because I think just what it has done for the future of mapping is really good because it has proven that you can take a map that is not traditional in the sense of like a 3 lane map and still have it be widely beloved by the community, still have it be played professionally at an insane level. I think that Nuke in the grand final of Cologne um 2022 was it with yeah, 2022 might be my favorite individual map of Counter-Strike ever, other than Inferno at the Boston Major. But
Of course.
yeah, every NA person's gonna say that. But I really did. I think Nuke is so good. I think it is the shining example, and I bring this up in my videos all the time. Nuke is the shining example of that innovation in Counter-Strike can work out. Like, you don't have to follow the formula to make a really good map. So, yeah.
Yeah, something about Nuke. Despite such a strange format, all the timings for the rotations all make sense. It feels like outside is in pretty good. Like the amount of innovation that happens outside in the last couple years has been insane. Like there's 30 different ways to throw 30, 40 different smokes outside to get across secret or to take garage control or to get top mini. I mean, just recently was it Vitality that threw that top mini smoke that drips down so it covers top
Yes,
credit, so
dude,
credit can't see
that blew
silo,
my
and
mind.
they
Oh my
also blocks
god.
mini, so mini can't watch cross, which is insane. Like
I
what?
love I love all of the like the CS2 smokes that rely on the smoke dripping down to like a below section. I think all of those are so cool. But dude, it's crazy how much just how much like change is still coming for this map outside. And I think you mentioned outside in particular, and I think that's good because that's a good point because the reason outside is so good is because it's so open. Like there are a million places for smokes to land. There's no specific route that you have to take in outer. And like even like when I thought like, oh, outer's fairly formulaic with like the three smokes that you throw to get into secret, then you
Mhm.
have like, oh shit, wait, Astralis do this crazy different thing, and then now you have Vitality doing this insane. There's like so many different innovative ways to do it, and also even like on the places that aren't talked about much. I love ramp on Nuke from the T perspective.
Mhm.
I think I watched a video many years ago at this point on the way that Dupree from Astralis takes ramp. And it just like, it is crazy how much thought is put into the setup on this one, like, sort of corner of the map and how much, like, innovation you can push with utility in this section, even though it's not, like, um, something that you would think because there's not really like a super wide angle of ways that you can throw utility out of the T entrance to ramp room, but there's still so much stuff that you can do. Like, and I'm sure that there's even more now after that video that has been done that I'm just not paying attention to, but it's so cool. I love Nuke. Yeah.
All right. So next up is the certified classic. It is Mirage.
It is Mirage. It definitely
I think
is.
that's actually a great way to put it. It's Mirage.
It is Mirage. Yeah. It's another one in mid, I feel like, honestly.
Mhm.
Like, it's just so ah it's weird because Mirage is both overhated and like overrated by the more casual community. I think
Mhm.
it's overhated by people in the competitive scene because it's been played so much. Um but honestly, I think that it's nowhere near as bad as Dust 2 in that way. I
Yeah.
still think things are kind of changing with Mirage. Maybe not as much as with other maps. In fact, definitely not as much with other maps. But um, I do see like when like a new strategic juggernaut comes through, there are still things that are different on Mirage that they do. Like I remember the way that like there was this one glaive smoke in top of the top mid Mirage that I remember hearing about and just like learning about and seeing how cool that was, and like there's still things that are changing about Mirage. I don't hate it as much as everyone else. It does need a remake badly, but it's very mid. It's not bad. It's mid.
Okay. I almost kind of want to put it in like I would not major flaws. If there was like a category that was like slightly in between mid and major flaws, like, 'cause it really needs changes, I think. But
It
like
does, yeah.
but it
But
still plays well. Like you
yeah,
know,
it's
like in
still
my
an
opinion, like
equalizer.
Mirage A site is like one of the most fun maps you can play on CT side if you're an anchor player. Like there's so many like boxes you could hide around, so many different so much counter utility you could throw, different positions and areas you could really synergize with, the jungle player or the connector player, for instance, or the CT player, wherever you're standing. Um, yeah, so I think it's fun in that regard, but it is like really just it's been the same for since Global Offensive really came out.
It
Like,
has, yeah.
really nothing's changed at all.
I also do want to point out that even though it has been the same, I think it being the same helps it play a role as an equalizer in the professional scene as well.
Mhm.
In the way that everyone knows how to play Mirage. It's kind of like Inferno, but rather than Inferno where everyone's willing to play Mirage, or everyone's willing to play Inferno rather. With Mirage, it's everyone has played like 1,000 matches of Mirage at this point, where like you know how it's going to work. It's almost like I almost want to say it's definitely the map that relies the most on individual mechanics because everyone knows exactly what to expect on the map, and I think that's definitely an important thing to have.
Gotcha. All right. Overpass.
Overpass. I'm going to throw it in immediately. Put it in at an innovative ceiling. Personally,
Mm-hmm.
just I don't hate Overpass. I think it's a good map, but it is very stagnant and it's just too big. And you can't make it smaller without completely changing the map in some way. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe major flaws as well, actually. Major is such a strong word, but we got to throw it in there. I think it has flaws that need to be addressed in
Mm-hmm.
some way. I trust the mapping gods at Valve to find a way to fix it without changing it too much, but you know.
Yeah, at least on Mirage, like, okay, Overpass, I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again on both sides. Like, every game is, in a lot of ways, identical to the one any other that I've played, really. Whereas at least Mirage, like, it's kind of fun still. Like, there's still different looks to it. I feel like Overpass is so one-dimensional in a lot of different areas because it's, one, a map that isn't really pug-friendly, per se. And then two, it's just kind of a mid map in general. So you don't get the innovation like, oh, the craziness of a pug. So people just start doing random stuff and, you have to kind of adjust to that. But once you get to a certain level, it's just the same thing over and over again, I feel.
I agree. As someone who I find myself wanting to play new positions on Overpass more than most other maps. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have pretty solidly set CT positions on every map that I play. Overpass is the one that I've been like talking with the guys that I play with most of the time and trying to see if I can switch it up a little bit because it again, when we play Overpass, it just gets so boring. Like it is I've been doing the same thing for like 5 years at this point. playing Overpass connector, just like all right, on the way, throw the smolly, throw this smoke in there, flash after this many seconds, it's just like it's like it's very much still the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't even have one thing that I'm kind of sad they removed in the CS2 remake is the self boost onto the pipe in connector. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you're
Mm-hmm.
familiar with that,
Yeah.
but that
On the
was
right
something that
side.
I used to use when I was playing just like to spice up my plan a little bit. I'd always catch people off guard with it even though it's like I feel like a lot of people know it exists, just nobody checks it because it's so inconvenient. That was so much fun. I'm sad they removed the self boost up to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. Overpass, honestly, like, along with Vertigo and Mirage, probably three maps that I wouldn't mind never, like, taking a break from the map pool.
Yeah, me
Um,
too. I think Overpass needs a break from the map pool. I
yeah.
think it does. I don't think it's going to get one because it just recently got updated. But I think that I agree. I definitely think it needs a break from the map pool.
All right. Well, speaking of the map pool, let's talk about the maps that are not in it. So the three we have coming up are Train, Cache, and Cobble.
Oh, we never talked about Vertigo.
Did we not talk about Vertigo? Oh my gosh, I totally skipped
Nope.
it. Vertigo. Good eye.
All good.
Okay, so Vertigo. Well, we talked about it a little earlier, and I think I know where this one's gonna go.
Yeah.
But why don't you
Throw
point me to a
Vertigo
box?
in. Throw Vertigo in at an innovative ceiling and also worst bomb site because B sucks. Um, Actually, I mean A sucks too, but not as much. I think A has like actual counterplay with. It is a lot of smoke spamming still, even today. That was the old thing people used to say about Vertigo all the time.
You
But
spam to the
like,
walls. Yeah.
yeah,
Shake for
oh my god,
smokes.
it feels so random and it feels very like it's very chaotic on Vertigo. I feel like a lot of it is just waiting around for time to elapse, hoping someone gets risky and pushes the angle that you're holding.
Yeah.
Um,
And on T, like when I'm taking, it's always like on A side, for instance, I'm all like, you always have to throw those left and right side smokes on the
Yep.
boxes, and then you have to molly out short, and then it doesn't matter how much util you bait. CTs always have like 3 HE grenades that they're gonna nuke you with if you plant on the site.
Mm-hmm.
So what a pain in the ass. And then post plants, you're never playing on the site. Like B, kind of, yeah, but on A, like you have to fall all the way
Yep.
back to ramp, or to maybe get a gimmick and like keep a guy sandbag if you're lucky, contest short.
Yeah.
But never, ever, ever are T's taking space, heaven or elevator.
Vertigo is the map that I definitely try to use the most gimmicks on, because I think that they give you the most advantage on Vertigo, because the map itself is already so chaotic. People are less likely to like expect that you're going to do this. Like I boost over the wall on A site Vertigo CT all the time, just because it's such a funny position to play. Like it gets you one kill like at least every game, I've noticed, but just because nobody thinks you're stupid enough to play that position. But you can do that. You can play like this stupid side angle like behind the railing on A as well, near the A site if you want.
Mhm.
But like it's just because you kind of like are able to use those gimmicks in a way that almost works. It proves to me that the map is really not that good. Um, I think again I've said this in a couple of videos, but it's very fundamentally flawed. Um, in the way that it just based on the way that the map works as it currently stands, there is no way for you to improve it to a point of being like a really solid map, like a nuke or like a an inferno, without basically ruining Vertigo as it is right now,
Mhm.
ruining its identity as a map. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I feel like Vertigo has just been so boring, like ever since it came into the map pool. I don't know, like when I played Ancient and Anubis, at first I was always apprehensive. That's because I'm a CS player and we all hate change.
Yeah,
But Vertigo, like, it's just always been at the very bottom of the maps that I want to play. Like, I don't know, I'll never pick Vertigo.
I've started very recently when I'm like playing some non-serious games with some friends where we're not like really trying to go super hard. I've
Mhm.
started playing Vertigo more often just because it's really easy to be unserious on Vertigo and still like have a chance at winning. I feel like that's not a good thing for the map,
Yeah.
but it's definitely fun. I like playing Vertigo sometimes. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I find the most successful when we are just kind of a lot looser and like, I don't know, it's tough. Anyway, uh, going back to what we were talking about earlier, that's the map pool. So now we're on to the three maps that were not part of it, or not currently part of it. We have Train, Cache, and Cobble. So let's start with Cobble. How do
Okay.
you rate Cobble? What are your thoughts?
Cobble, I think, is overrated. We've talked about it a little bit. Um, even in, I mean, obviously the Cobblestone remake murdered the A bomb site. It now
Jesus.
is so much like, well, I don't even know what they were thinking with that. Like, it's an actually brain dead change to make the A bomb site just like an octagon in the middle of like the open. I don't get it.
Yeah, with like some wood panel,
Um,
like pallets or whatever in the center, or coffins.
yeah,
Yeah, just what?
it's
Uh,
so it's such a silly change, and they also made the boost no longer an exclusive like drop,
what's the
which is
point?
like exactly like what? Why is it a drop then?
You're there to take a
But
risk, you know?
yeah,
And that's what made it fun.
that is what made it fun. The remake made it absolutely terrible, but I even think before the remake, it still was not amazing. It definitely did need a remake, and I applaud Valve for at least trying to do that. But yeah, I think actually throw Cobble in worst bomb site at this point. Not
Okay.
even gonna lie,
We
that
could keep both.
Cobblestone A site. I just realized I completely neglected Cobble A site when considering that worst bomb site, because that is absolutely the worst bomb site in the game right now. Or I guess
Yeah.
it's not in the game, but you know. Oh my god.
That one's pretty. I'm also gonna throw it into major flaws.
Yeah, pop it in there too.
I feel like you could still do a lot. It's not at an innovative ceiling because I feel like you could still change a lot about the map without it losing its identity.
Yeah,
Um, but
I think
definitely need some big changes.
definitely. I think it's in. Whereas Overpass, the problem is it's kind of at a peak where if you do change it too much, it's not going to be Overpass anymore. Cobblestone is at a point where, yeah, it has major flaws, but those major flaws are also very fixable while remaining still Cobblestone. I think it's really weird that they decided to change the A site when the A site was, at least in my opinion, I wasn't like super like huge into the competitive scene when Cobblestone was played, to be
Hmm.
honest. But back when I did play on Cobblestone, the A site was the one that I saw as like kind of like more usual, and the B site was the one that kind of needed more changes.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that's where I'm at with Cobblestone right now.
Gotcha.
I don't
Gotcha.
hate it, but I think it should be fixed and added to the game. But
Yeah,
you know,
maybe this is just me spitballing. And this doesn't have to be a whole thing, but maybe like some sort of way to get in connector that isn't from drop as at C. And then
maybe.
maybe some like cover as well from that giant ramp that goes up to A. I don't know. Just
Definitely. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
big one that I've thought about. I
That's
think
a death.
that
That's a death run.
the A ramp one is actually just it's not doable unless you have like an enormous amount of utility committed. At which point you'll kind of reveal yourself that you're going A if you throw enough
Exactly.
utility to be able to
Yeah.
push out. But yeah, and then I think oh, I had such a good point that I was. Oh yeah, also I think it would be really funny if they added more heavens. I think they should add back the like all the other heavens that they had, and then like add a couple more
They're
in
like
just
three
for
at
like
one point, right? And there's like
yeah, there were three. There were three separate heaven points. I think they should add more. I think there should be at least five because I think that's like a solid number. You can have one for each player on the team.
Mhm.
So
They
yeah,
should add Cobble to Flying Scoutsman. I think that would do really well. You know?
maybe honestly, I hope they add Flying Scotsman back generally because I
True.
missed that game mode.
All right, so let's start with Train. I want to save Cash for last.
Okay, yeah, train. I'm gonna run with. I think train. I really like it. I think it had. But I do think it was correct to be removed when it was. It's kind of
Hmm.
sad that um, it had to go, but I do think it was the right decision at that point.
It's kind of hard to
I
figure out where to
th-
put it because it's not really mid, but it didn't have any major
Definitely
flaws.
not. Yeah,
But it
I
also
think
really
it.
needed that break. So to say it's at an innovative ceiling would not be completely inaccurate, but there was also
Yeah,
still a lot of room to be played with.
yeah, and
It's a
it can be
tough map.
changed a lot.
Yeah.
It has a lot of stuff that can be changed. Like I think even within the lifespan of Counter Strike Global Offensive, where they've kind of had these multiple times throughout the existence of Train, where they've reshuffled the position of cover in each open courtyard, specifically on the A site, where they first in the initial edition, which was basically just a port from CS Source, they had the bomb train in the middle. Then they had the remake where they kind of shifted bomb train slightly, and then they had the like 2017 reshuffle again where they moved bomb train to where it is where we think of it now.
Hmm.
Um, but I think you can keep doing a lot of that stuff. One of the ideas that has stuck with me for map design is I think it was Anders that had this idea, the caster Anders. He had the idea of maybe a way that you could keep each map fresh is by shuffling, by consistently keeping the layout the same, but shuffling the cover on site a little bit
Yeah.
to be a little bit different, just so it still has that slightly different feel, opens up some more possibilities for utility. And I think just that little slight change is enough to make a map viable in Counter Strike because that's so much changes with such very little differences in our game. So
Hmm.
I actually don't know where to put it. Maybe. Hmm.
I'm gonna drop it into simply mid, but
Yeah, sure.
like with an asterisk, like
Definitely. Yeah.
because
If
mid
there was
implies like
like
some sort of just but it's not
yeah,
It's like it's
it's
got some
pretty good. I
flavor,
like Train. I'm a fan of Train. If there was like if there was a category that was good and then a thumbs up emoji, I would put it there. I
Mhm.
think Train is very like good. I like it. Yeah.
All right, so now the last map is Cache. Now I'm super biased here, but I really really love A site Cache.
Me
Um,
too. We're on
like
the same page. All right.
okay, I'm
Best
putting
bomb
this in
site.
best bomb
Lock
site.
it
Yeah,
in.
there you
Yeah.
go.
I've been waiting for that. That's what I have had in my mind ever since that category even like I saw it for sure.
Yeah,
Um
with easy access to support from mid, so you're not
yeah.
when seeds are coming up from you and attacking from mid as well as a site. It doesn't. Let's say if you're on quad or site, it feels like it still isolate those fights. Like you still have a chance if you're getting crunched. And then if you're a T, like let's say you're playing on a pod, you're in a team, like it's easy to get those timings correct where you need to go to a mid A split. Forklift is a super isolated position, but there's so much advantage because it's complete. The T's have to look opposite to quad, and from the site generally speaking, you have
Yeah.
support from truck as well if you need to. There's the entire site you could dance around, and although people plant on a
Yeah.
single spot on T on default, you could plant in theory for highway, and I've seen it happen
Yeah.
before. Like you plant for highway and play for that instead, and it catches everyone off guard. There's so much room in that site to just do whatever you
There
want.
is. It's great. I love Cache A site. Cache in general has been one of my favorite maps for like a very long time. It's always been in my top 3, I'd say. I just love I love playing Cache A site on CT side. I love pushing it on T side. I'm such a big fan. There's also so many. My favorite Counter-Strike clip of all time occurs on Cache A site.
Mhm.
It's a clip of oh, it's so hard to explain, but it's Mo, and
Oh, okay.
it's a not a Counter-Strike clip as in like, oh, this pro play is awesome. It's a Counter-Strike clip as in this is fucking hilarious.
Okay.
But it's actually 2 of my favorite CS clips of all time. Have you seen the one where Ocean flashes over onto A site, then it hits him, and then he says flash A in comms? I just think that one's so hilarious.
I've
It's so
not seen
short.
that one.
It's just like he flashes himself, and then he calls flash A.
Flash
It's so funny. but yeah, I love Cache. There's so many like Cache A. There's so many like you said, it's a super dynamic on CT side. It's really dynamic in the post plant too. Like, oh, there's so many good clutches from that perspective too. Like, there's the Nico one. I think there's also a good Hiko clutch from that perspective.
1v5 from
Techne.
quad. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Just insanity. Yeah.
The nifty wallbang.
Dude,
From
that one's
Heaven.
crazy.
Uh, Dennis, the former Fnatic player, hitting crazy
Yup.
headshots there. Like Cache, I feel it's still not a super technical map, and I think it got removed at a good time. But I would love to see it back with some minor changes. I think in a recent interview, I forget who he did it with, but I believe FM Pone talked to Vu. Or was it Vu? No, Flom, where they talked about Cache and like how window didn't work and how there could be some other changes. I'd love to see some other small changes to Cache. I think it's like I would love to see it come back.
Me
it has
too.
it has a lot of space and a lot of potential.
Absolutely. I've seen a lot of talk from FM Pone on Twitter about making Cache or remaking Cache for CS2. He says he's going to base the new CS2 version of Cache off of the initial version of Cache or the older version, which I think is good. I think I definitely think the changes in the newer version were all right, but I also think that they weren't like mind-blowingly good that they need to stay. I think window just kind of failed, like you said. I don't really understand the idea behind that personally, but I do like to see the change again, and I'm glad that we're going back to the old way though. So yeah.
All right. Well, with that actually no. Before I wrap it up, I'm gonna drop Cache into the future of CS.
Definitely, dude. I'm
feel
so here
that-
for it.
I feel
It's gonna
that
come back, and
it's
it's gonna be
come
so good. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, but with that wraps up the clutch. Thank you, Penguin, for doing that with me. Super
course.
awesome discussion about the maps, and I'm excited to see what the map was to offer. So we are coming to a close, but we have 1 or 2 more questions.
Yeah.
So the first question is once again about a map, and this was actually off of some of I was going back and watching some of the CS2 like release stuff again that they're hinting at, and then some of your old content. Do you think that Canals can become competitive without losing its identity?
No.
Perfect.
just to put it simply, no. I think Canals can't. I think Canals is really fun. I think it's super awesome to play in, like, if you can ever get like an in-house game going on Canals, it's so great. But I think that Valve definitely bit off more than they could chew with Canals. It's very different. It's huge. It's so open. I think if they tried, they could get it to a point similar to where like maybe a Vertigo is right now.
It'll never be
in all
among,
honesty. No way. No.
Yeah.
Without completely changing Canals entirely. The A side of Canals is just too absolutely terrible for it to be good without being completely changed to a entirely different layout on the A half of the map, I think. But yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And were there actually, yeah. So this is kind of talking about the pro discussion. Are there any teams that pushed a map to its strategic limit? Like any, for example, when I think of Vertigo, I think of like that Team Liquid run and where they were like destroying everyone, and then Astralis came out of nowhere and like counterpicked it against them, and showed them how it's done. Um, we talk about, I believe, Navi. I forgot how many games it was, but they were on some insane win streak on Nuke.
Nuke. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any like when you think about maps or teams really like figuring out a map and pushing them out to its absolute limit? What team and what map, what era?
I think the one that obviously comes to mind is the way that people were talking about Nuke when Astralis were in their era. I
Mm-hmm.
think because I remember just like listening to interviews from around that time, and people were basically saying, "Yeah, with Astralis, you essentially need to beat them. You need to be better than them both on your pick and on the decider, because their pick is always going to be Nuke, and unless you ban Nuke, which some teams did, if they have Nuke, they are guaranteed going to win Nuke against you. That was like the way that people thought about Astralis at the time. So you essentially had to 2-0 them on your pick in the decider if you wanted to win, because Nuke was already a foregone conclusion at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's what I think of when I think of absolute complete dominance on maps. I'll have to think a little bit more. I think, am I wrong in saying that SK had a crazy train? Like I I feel like
Yeah,
when
I
I think
mean,
of
when I think SK Fallen, it's like some clips on B,
exactly.
some clips from like back six. I've hit some insane op shots. Like, that's
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
SK Train up there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, Liquid on Vertigo was always a pleasure, but that's also because
Dude,
I'm just NA brained, so I had to
Liquid
love Liquid.
Liquid
Um,
Vertigo will always be tainted for me by the counterpick incident at
uh,
Starladder Berlin. It just
Thorn
like
Thorn was like, okay, this is either the biggest brain play ever, or this is insanely stupid from Astralis,
yeah.
and it turned out
Oh
to
my
be the biggest
god.
brain play ever. It was
Dude,
crazy.
that's still like I have to respect it though is the problem because it's
Yeah.
such an insane moment. But
The
like
crowd goes insane. The analyst nest
yeah.
loses their minds. It's like
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been actually like there's very few moments in that have been exciting in the pick ban like that
Yeah.
one was.
Like I feel like we need to find a way to emulate that more often because the pick ban is such an like an influential thing in the way that the game is played. I feel like if we emphasize that more, I think that can do really good things for the future of Counter-Strike as an esport because it adds that it puts the strategic depth of the game at the forefront rather than the technical ability of the players.
Hmm.
A lot of times when people are talking about one team versus another, they discuss, oh, this player is this guy is just insane. He's much better than they have more cumulative skill than the other team. That's what they're talking about when discussing these teams. And I think that if we focused more on map pool, because I really do think map pool is really important. Like I remember Nine had an insane ancient during their run, like the Polish team Nine.
Hmm.
Uh, they just won Ancient against everyone. I think they beat like Heroic on Ancient even, like when Heroic were really, really good. Um, so that shows even a team like Nine at that point, who were not insanely good at like as a cumulative like skill team, could end up making upsets happen just purely off of being strategically ahead of everyone else on a map or something like that. Yeah, I think the way that Starladder Berlin had the like map pick and ban over the crowd and like really put that emphasis on it. I think that should be done more. I think that
Yeah,
was cool.
that was absolutely insane. Well, we're wrapping up, so I have one final question for you.
I'm here for
Um,
it.
you talked about how in some ways you're nihilistic towards CS2, but both nihilistic and optimistic at the same time. If CS:GO is a 10 out of 10, where is CS2 currently?
That's his. Ooh. So, yeah, to kind of expand on that, the reason that I talked like that in my video is because I had to go back into CS:GO to record some clips for the video, and just running around these maps, I kind of noticed how much better CS:GO felt to me at least than CS2 does. And it was kind of disheartening at the time because I really do want CS2 to succeed, and I think that it can succeed, but we kind of are stuck with it as it is right now. I think this latest update is a really, really big step forward towards being more exactly like a replica of CS:GO. Um, I think right now the I'd say CS2, if CS goes a 10, CS2 is like at this point, honestly, it's really not so far off. I think it's like an 8, if not like an 8.5, honestly. I think we're kind of seeing the romanticization of CS:GO
Oh,
in a
jeez.
way.
Yeah.
Like people on like the Global Offensive subreddit are just like talking about CS:GO like it is this like perfect game, when in reality a lot of the glitches and the things that you see happen where people like getting CS2'd or whatever also happened a lot in CS:GO, and we
Yeah.
just kind of forget about that. Um yeah, I think CS2 is in a great spot. I think with a little bit more polish, it'll be insanely good. And I think that the way that we can get that polish to go in the right direction is by being incredibly clear about what feels wrong about the game. Like one thing that really needs to be fixed right now. I'm not a huge person in Surf, but I know there's a Surf YouTuber called
Repster.
Repster.
Hmm.
Yep. Um, how'd you know I was gonna say him?
Because I
but
love watching Repster.
of course, yeah. But yeah, I've talked to him a little bit about Surf in CS2, and he says that even with the newest update, it does not feel correct. So I do think they need to fix movement to the point where Surf feels right. I think they need to fix a lot of the super basic bugs. Like one that's been in the game for so long that really bugs me is the boost bug, where you're boosting on someone else and you're like cameras sliding all over the place. It feels like you're on like a top of a double boost, but in reality, it's a single boost, and it just is incorrect. It's
Hmm.
dumb. Um, but I think once they iron out those very small problems, which are very fixable, CS2 is going to be as good, if not better, than CS:GO.
Yeah. Well, I'm on the same page as you. I think we're really not too far off. CS2 has a very, if this is where we're starting, it's like seeing where Source and like Go, like where they started and how good they are now. If this is where CS2 is starting, then I think we have a very bright future ahead of us. But with that, Penguin, it has been a long interview. I wasn't expecting such a great discussion.
Yeah,
Thank you so
it
much
was
for
good
coming
talking to you
on.
too. Honestly, yeah.
If people at home want to find out more about you, if they don't watch your stuff, if they want to keep up with what you're doing, where can they find you?
YouTube, Penguin. It's just search Penguin CS on YouTube. You'll find me. On Twitter at Penguin_CS2. And yeah, it's pretty much everywhere that I am. So yeah, check
Awesome.
me out. Shout out.
All right. Well, with that,
Yeah,
we'll come to a close in this episode. You guys at home have a great one. See you guys in the
of
next.
course. Yes.